Welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me yet, my name is Anamunguia, and I love talking about unplanned pregnancies. Why? Because I've been there, I've done that, and I can understand you. Today, I want to talk to you about a subject that if you sign below, it says, becoming a single mom in 1899 affected my life. Of course, that was not me. In 1899, what happened? Who was the single mother that affected my life? You want to know the story? Okay, storytelling now. So it was 1899, probably around February or March, and my great grandmother was 16 years old. In those times, in the 1890s, it was normal that a teen would marry an older man. It was normal that a teen at 14, 15, 16, 17 become a mother. That was the normal in those times in 1899. But guess what? My great grandmother broke the rules, and she slept with her boyfriend before getting married. Oops, that was a turmoil situation in her life. And she was the second generation that had come from Europe to my country. I am from El Salvador in Central America, a third world country. And they had emigrated from Europe to the El Salvador. And that's where my father's side comes from. And in that time, she was like the second generation. My great grandparents had emigrated. So she's here, a single woman, girl, teen that is pregnant at 16, and she has no ring in her finger. She's not wedded, and she's pregnant. Oh my Lord, that was scary in those days. Nowadays, girls, they get pregnant and they are proud of it and they are happy about it. After the turmoil, they just accept it and they go through it. But in those days, it was very scary, totally scary. So what happened was that the boyfriend, when she broke the news, she said, that's not my boy. I'm not going to recognize it. I'm not sure that he is mine. Guess what? My great grandmother got really mad, really mad at this guy. And he said, the heck with you. I can be a single mom and I'm going to raise my kid. That was my great grandmother. She put her pants on, rolled her sleeves, and she took care of her boy. Now, that was my grandfather. The problem is that in those days, they will call him all these awful names because he was the son of an unwedded woman. You know how they call the kids that are out of marriage? Well, he was one of them. And he had all these marks on his head. And besides, he was kind of little, very dark skin, Indian Salvadorian type of dark brown skin. And he wasn't any good looking at all, but he had a dream. He wanted to be somebody. He wanted to marry somebody that he can love and change the new generations. He wanted to improve his race. That's what he put in his mind. He wanted to change his name. He wanted to change his new generations, and he had a dream. My great grandmother raised him in a very poor household. They say that he would only have one pair of shoes that he would use to go to mass on Sundays. Interesting. My great grandmother was poor. and she was still not wedded. So my grandfather was out of wedlock, and so he was called the bastard boy. Ooh, horrible word, horrible name for those kids that are out of marriage. Well, for some reason, God has given the instructions that you get married first and then you have kids. But when you start having adult situations and start playing with what it's saved for marriage, then these things can happen. And it happened to her. Of course, in 1899, there was no birth controls, there was no condoms, there were no nothing at those age. You would have all the kids that God would send to you. My great-grandmother had only my grandfather. He was the only child. Grateful that she took that choice, because now my grandfather decided that he wanted to change his life, and he was born into a little poor town outside the city, and he decided to emigrate to the city, to the capital of my country, and become an accountant. And as an accountant, he started to work with this company. And then, since he had a big vision of his life and he wanted to be somebody, he decided to put his own business. And that's where the business mindset comes into my life, from my grandfather, from my dad's side. So he wanted to be somebody, and he married my grandmother, who is a whitish lady, was, because obviously they're not here. This was 121 years ago that he was born. I mean, my great-grandmother was pregnant 121 years ago. My grandfather was born the 15th of December of 1899, and he died when he was 98 or 97, something like that. So he lived a full life. Anyway, what happened was that he had a vision, a big vision, and promised my grandmother that he was going to make it in life, and that he was going to treat her as a princess, and that he was going to build for her a big mansion, and that he wanted to marry her and to accept him. Well, my grandmother came from society. And in those days, my country was kind of small and everybody knew everybody. She comes from a family that was very successful in the coffee market, but somehow I didn't inherit any of that, but that's not the point. Anyway, he fell in love with her, but her family did not accept my grandfather because he was out of wedlock. Tough decision. So in those days, my grandmother was sent to Europe, to France. Now check this one out. I'm talking about 1920s, something like that. No airplanes by that time. So she went in a ship through the whole ocean to Europe to learn French and to separate her from my grandfather. But since they got married, you know that love prevailed, and my grandfather waited for my grandmother to come back. And when he knew that she was going to come back in the ship and she was going to be in the port, he was there waiting for her, telling her that he was still in love with her and they wanted to get married. Finally, my grandmother accepted, the family had to accept it, and he promised the world to her. And I can tell you, my grandfather built a mansion for my grandmother. Yep, that's where my family comes from. He promised a mansion and he did it. He promised that he wanted to change his new generations and improve his race because he was not good looking. And he had 4 kids, 2 girls and 2 boys. So the first one was a girl, the second one was a girl, the third one was my father, a boy, and the fourth one was my uncle, another boy. So he had 4 kids. So that's where my generation comes. So then my father had 3 kids with my mother. So we are 3, my 2 brothers and me. I'm the middle child. And see how this affected. This is a ripple effect. I want you to look at this generationally, because if you are with an unplanned pregnancy and you're taking your choices now and you're thinking remotely about abortion, you want to know that you're not just getting rid of that baby, you are getting rid of a whole generation. So with the rules of nowadays, my great-grandmother would have had all the reason to get an abortion because she was 16 and unwedded. And her family didn't like that at all. But she decided to birth my grandfather. And because she decided to do that and to become the first single mother of all my generations, that's the only one I know, and I never met her because I was born much, much later after she died. So because of her, my grandfather had 4 kids, and those 4 kids reproduced themselves. The first one had 2, the second one had 4, my father had 3, and my uncle had another 3. So we are a lot of cousins out there. Now, from his 4 kids, the last one had an unplanned pregnancy, and that's how one of my cousins was born. The second one, second girl had also an unplanned pregnancy, and that's how my older cousin was born. And from us generation, the grandchildren, we are 4 girls that had unplanned pregnancies, 4. So unplanned pregnancies are in my bloodline. Oh, well, I'm gonna repeat that. They were in my bloodline because with me down, that stops. And this is why I'm so passionate about talking about unplanned pregnancies, because I was the last one in my generation to have an unplanned pregnancy. It's always scary. I mean, if it's scary nowadays, imagine how it was in 1899. My grandmother is my hero, and I totally forgot about her and her toughness when I had my unplanned pregnancy. I couldn't look up to her because I forgot about her. I was in so much struggle, and so I had no clear thoughts. Was all messed up in my feelings, in my emotions, in my life, that I could not see past the problem. But my great-grandmother took a choice, and that was in 1899, 121 years ago, and that choice of life affected me because I was born thanks to that choice she took. So the 4 kids that my grandfather had reproduced, and they were married to pretty people. And this is how we became lighter. I'm the lighter of all my family, and we became a new generation. We all the grandchildren had reproduced themselves except 2, and we all have kids. But from those 4 that we had unplanned pregnancies, the 4 of us got married, all of us, because of the unplanned pregnancy. So because I didn't know anything about single motherhood, nobody in my family had a single motherhood situation except my great-grandmother, that we all forgot about it because we never talked about the elephant in the room of how my grandfather came about. But I know this story because I started to investigate my generations. You know how the Bible says that he blesses up to the 4th generation? No, he curses up to the 4th generation, but he blesses 1,000 generations down. Well, I was the 4th generation of the curse of the unplanned pregnancy. My great-grandmother had my my grandfather who had 4 kids, and from those 4 kids, 2 were unplanned grandchildren, and then we grandchildren, 4 of us also had unplanned pregnancy. The 4 of us got married, 2 of us got divorced, didn't function, and the other 2 are still married to the same guy they got pregnant of. So generational curses started with my great-grandmother, my grandfather. I wonder if my oldest aunt was unplanned too. I don't know. I haven't found that out. Maybe it's a secret there. I don't know. Anyway, so the thing is that we have 4 generations. There's 5 generations already. And the grandchildren we have already had, some of the grandchildren already have children already. So we have 5 generations already starting with my great grandmother down. There are 5 generations already in the family from my dad's side. So it's important to know that a baby represents full generations coming up in your life, in your family. So this is one of the big reasons I defend life. Life is always the best thing to decide because life brings joy. Life brings happiness. Getting rid of a baby brings a lot of burden. It brings suffering. It brings depression. It brings a lot of ghosts that go in your mind. So 121 years ago, my great-grandmother's decision to become a single mother affected me. But see, she changed the story with her son because he was married to my grandmother until they died in their 90s. So he changed his whole situation. He changed his generations to come, and he changed his life because he had a vision. He did not want to stay as an underdog and be nobody, to be always the unwedded child, to be always the one that came from a single mother, to be always the one that was called all those horrible names that I don't want to repeat actually, because all children are precious in God's eyes. So I want to encourage you that when you think about your baby, when you discover that you're pregnant, to think life. Everything is going to turn out good. I promise everything is going to turn out good. With my help, the adult you need in your life, I'm here for you and I can understand you. I know it because I was there. This is why I'm in this space, because I had nobody to talk to on those days. And it was troubling time. It was hard times. And now I'm here for you. So change the new generations. Give the best life you can to your children, to your new generation. Your child, the one that you have right now, if you have found, it's because you're looking under unplanned pregnancies. Somehow you're trying to find something to hold from, to get some toughness in you, some energy into you, some courage into you to birth that baby. I know it automatically. Doesn't matter what age you are. I have found girls at 12, 13, 14, 15 that have birthed the baby. And of course it was scary. Of course it was like the wrong time. Definitely the wrong time because you're still young. But doesn't matter at what time in your age you have an unplanned pregnancy, it's still scary. I know it. I know so. But doesn't matter the circumstances, things get better. And that baby is gonna turn your life around, give you a stop of how you are deciding your life, and give you a vision of how you want to construct a better life for you and your baby. Because now you're not only you, You're not the rebel one in your family. You're not the one that is escaping from your house to go and meet the boys. No, you're not anymore alone. Now you're responsible of a little human being that you are bearing in your tongue. Don't fool yourself. It's not cells. When you find out that you're pregnant, I have news for you. The heartbeat is already beating. The heartbeat is already there. So if you're not sure if you're pregnant and you need help in this scary season, in this turmoil that you're living, in this denial time that you are, because you don't want to be pregnant because it's not the right time. Of course, if it would be the right time, it would be a planned pregnancy. So I get it. So if you do not want to go through it alone, please write to me and have access to my program called First Aid Kit for Teens and First Aid Kits for College Kids. And coming up is going to be also First Aid Kits for working moms. It's coming up. So if you want to get help, reach out to me, write to my email that it's in the bottom here, and I'm here for you. Don't do this alone. It's too scary to do it alone. And it's scary to tell your parents, it's scary to tell your partner, it's scary to tell your friends even, because the shame is there. The oops, I messed up my life is there. I ruined my life is there. But believe me, you have not ruined your life. You have not messed up. That unplanned baby by you, it's very planned by the Creator, by God. You believe him or not, he created you and he created that baby with the DNA he needed for that conception. Present or not, that boy in the presence of your kid, he needed that DNA. So he is a 50% responsible, yes, but we as women have to take the biggest struggle into it, because we are the ones that give life. We have the privilege to give life. No man can give life. Now they're saying the person that is pregnant, no, transgenders need to have female things. So they're not men, they are transgender, they have female things to be pregnant. So you are the one responsible of that baby, and you're chosen to birth that baby. Don't be scared. Believe me, it's more scary to get rid of all your generations. It's so much joyful to give birth to that baby. I'm here for you. Don't do it alone. Reach out for help, and I'm going to take you through all the steps you need. So you're not alone. My great-grandmother made a great decision, and because of her, I'm here talking to you now. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I'm the 4th generation. Curses go to 4 generations. Blessings go to 1,000 generations. That's in the Bible. If you want to know where, I'll let you know. Reach out. I'm always going to give you advice that it's in the Bible. I don't do it myself. He guides me and he tells me what to tell my kids, my girls. And I'm here for you. You can call me Mama Anna, Aunt Anna, friend Anna. I don't care how you call me. I just don't want you to be alone, because I was alone and I know how lonely it is and how scary it is. So reach out. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. I'm here for you. Thank you for listening. Be blessed, and I love you. Take care. Share this video. Subscribe if you haven't. Ring the bell so you do not miss any episode. And I'll see you in. Bye-bye.